Hello and welcome to episode 386 of the Stacey West podcast. We are deep into June now. The transfer window is closed as of an hour and a half ago for a short period of time for a reason that Chris will know. I have been told and have forgotten. Speaking of Chris, he's my partner in crime this evening and he joins us live from Rugby. How are you, Chris?
Very well, thank you. Rejuvenated after an evening run, Gary. That you and I do. I say we did together. We didn't really. You were way ahead of me. But yeah, good mate. Good mate. Episode 386 feels a little bit different at the start compared to episode 385, of course, that we did last week, which was a superb evening. Thank you for all who attended and listened. But yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. So a couple of things before we get into football. First of all, collectively, we have started a rugby running group of which you have become a part on a Wednesday. So that's quite nice, getting out and having a little bit of a run, just 5K, nice, easy kind of jog. But it was hard work tonight. It was really quite warm. But I think we've had about 30 different people at various points. So really nice. Yeah, good to get out and do a run. I accidentally ordered some eau de parfum. Did I tell you about that?
No, you did not.
So about 8-9 months ago, I was on TikTok, as you are. I think I might have been sat on the throne. And like, if you click on one thing, like it might not even have been TikTok, it might have been YouTube Shorts. They're all the same thing. Silly little videos, people doing silly stuff. Don't want to watch that. Football, watch that. And there was this one where it's like they were testing these like aftershave, eau de parfum spray, whatever. And they were testing them, and it was obviously set up, but people were smelling them and going, "Oh, that's beautiful," and all the footballers wear it. So I took that particular aftershave and I found it on Amazon, and it was like $11.99. I thought, "Oh, I'll have that." And then, of course, I kind of get up and I forgot all about it. So I thought, I'm not interested in that anymore. Fast forward to Saturday. So Saturday night we had a party at the house, as you know. You were there. The whole Stacey West team were there, which was nice. And I realised that I needed some Barocca. So I thought I'd order some Barocca on Amazon. But because I was drunk, I inadvertently ordered everything that I had put kind of half in my basket and then not decided to buy. So I've had this little electrical box turn up for the LED lights that I put in the shed in November when you were there. And I had this Durham Oud, I think it's called, aftershave turn up as well, which we've had it out. Can't ascertain whether it's male or female, but I've been told that I've got to put it on outside of the house because it's so pungent and long-lasting.
Oh, pungent and long-lasting, eh? Well, I'm sure we could all sign up for a bit of that now, couldn't we?
That does sound like other elements of my life. So there we go. So I now have some pungent and long-lasting. And the thing is, I already have what I class as like my day aftershave, which is Antonio Banderas, which, as you know, I bought in duty free when we went to Cologne. So
didn't even know who that bloke was. Now I feel like I live with him. How often I've heard that story.
Yeah, so I've got my Antonio. So even if I go to the shop, right, I don't just get up and go to the shop. I get changed. I need to look good and smell good when I go to the shop because I leave the house on so few occasions. I kind of feel that I have to make an effort, even if I'm just going to Morrison's. So I do have a smelly that I put on just to go to Morrison's.
Well, each to their own.
I know. I've got about 15 bottles of it. So there we go. So we've got a lot of people listening at the moment. We'll go through and have a look at those at half time. But we've got 4 orders of business to attend to. And the first one probably we should go to is the only bit of confirmed business so far this summer in terms of players' incomings and exits. And that is Sean Roughan moving to Huddersfield Town. Now, I did a dog walk video on this morning, so I've made my feelings very clear. I think that Sean is making a step up in terms of club size. Don't think there's any argument about that at all. Huddersfield Town are a bigger club than us. Say whatever we want about them being in the same league, about them being bad at the end of last season, but they are throwing money at it. I see this just today. They brought in Paul McShane, a Liverpool coach, and they've brought in Mark Wilkinson. I think one was Man United, one was Liverpool. They brought in Stephen Gerrard's assistant, who was assistant to Stephen Gerrard at Saudi Arabia. They are throwing money at it. They've got Josh Lowe coming from Wickham. And I think it's a testament to our academy that they have thrown money at Sean Roughan and Lincoln City. So people know my thoughts. I'm behind Sean. I'm a big fan of Sean's. I think it's a risky move from Sean to go to Huddersfield. But at the same time, I can absolutely understand it. He's given an interview tonight saying that he's hoping it boosts his full Ireland credentials. Can understand that as well. So, Chris, Sean Roughan, Huddersfield Town.
Yeah, sad, isn't it? It's weird. I'm kind of sad that he's gone, but kind of proud that someone's come all the way through our academy setup. 15 years old, came over to the club, became an ever-present in the first team, a very incredibly dependable and consistent performer, and has moved on for a significant fee to better himself. Of course, the dream, I think, for all of us is that Sean would be with us on our journey, and we would all love for the stars to align and we end up in the Championship. That's what we all hope. But with being completely realistic, Sean has got a more realistic chance of playing Championship football this time next summer, whilst playing for Huddersfield Town, than he does for us. And I appreciate Huddersfield maybe were a little bit of a basket case last season. I think they maybe have learnt from their mistakes a little bit. They appear to be recruiting behind the scenes a real good structure. And I think they brought good characters as well as good footballers in the summer. It seems their recruitment's a lot more joined up than it was this time last summer. Hey, I don't particularly like Huddersfield Town because it feels like we've got a little bit of a rivalry with them in that they always seem to nick our bloody players and managers, don't they? But they are more likely to go up than we are. I doubt there'll be any predictions pre-season from so-called pundits and professionals that have us ahead of Huddersfield Town in the prediction charts. So it is absolutely a step up, an increase in stature, an increase in expectation and pressure as well. But yeah, kind of sad because I really like Sean. You and I were huge fans of his. But yeah, we can't really hold anything against him. He was out of contract. It sounds like we've negotiated a reasonable package in terms of finances. So we will get paid in some way, shape or form. We'll touch on that maybe in a moment in what our thoughts might be behind that. But yeah, overriding emotion is mixed. Kind of proud of him, proud of the academy and the progression that it's made. But it's always sad to see a player, one of your key players and one of the first names on the team sheet, leave the football club, albeit for a few quid.
Yeah, I mean, one person in the comments, Paul Stalabras, has said, do you think players' agents are advising their clients to run down contracts so any transfer fee could be given to the player as a signing bonus? Could this be a reason why Sean didn't re-sign? I think the answer to that is absolutely not. There's no way that any transfer fee would be given to a player. We have had a transfer fee for Sean. So I think it was always, when he signed his last deal with us, I think it was always fairly obvious he was going to leave at this stage, because it would be risky for us to have committed to another year or two of huge money and then him go away for free, because then we lose all of that development, and that leaves the I don't like to say the model, but the element of our progression that relies on us developing players and selling them on for a profit. It would put them completely at risk. So I don't think there was any doubt about that. And I don't, at the end of the day, it's a job, and we're going to move on to Paudie soon. But these guys know that they can get better deals elsewhere, and it's a job. And at the end of the day, we're Lincoln City fans, and for us, it's very different. For us, it's a way of life, it's a culture, it's what we do. We love Lincoln. We've got them tattooed on our skin, and we've got it ingrained in our heads. But for these guys, it's Sean's 22, I think. And by the way, there is an awful lot of ambiguity around how old Sean is, because I think two different outlets have got his birthday at two different times. I think on Wikipedia, it's different to Transfer Market. So it's 21 or 22. My understanding is his birthday was in March. He's 22. 22-year-old, he's got to think about his career. And if Huddersfield Town have come and doubled his money, and I'm not saying they have, but it's highly likely that they're going to have doubled his money. And it's highly likely that they are offering him an opportunity at Championship football, because a club of their stature may be in this division now. They may be in this division in 12 months' time. But do you expect Huddersfield to be in this division in 3, 4, 5, 6 years? No. us, Burton, Shrewsbury's, we're the sort of teams that spend a lot of time in this division. Big clubs like Huddersfield either come in and go up, or come in, go through like a dodgy prawn curry, and then come back up and start challenging again, Bolton, Coventry, Luton, etc. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think Huddersfield will be one of the biggest spenders in the division this season. You know, they're already saddled with the wages from the likes of Dion Charles and Joe Taylor, but I think Marcus Harness now, Josh Lowe, Sean Roughan. I said in our chat, I thought that they were going to be on dodgy ground. Having seen their backroom appointments today, the only thing that will scupper Huddersfield Town being in the top 4 for me next season is fans and owner. If they lose 2 or 3 games early doors and the fans turn, the owner's got an itchy trigger finger, and that could be an issue. So, but yeah, no begrudging Sean. Is it? Do you think he's more likely to get capped for Ireland playing for Huddersfield, even though it's the same level as Lincoln?
Yeah, bigger club, bigger stature, more eyes on them. We don't like to admit it, but yeah, of course, particularly because it's not just now, is it? It's in the next 2-3 years. They're more likely going to be a championship club within the next 3 years, certainly before we are, most likely. So yeah, he's going to have more eyes on him in that regard. And just quickly on the reason to leave, we have touched on the footballing element, which I think is probably more important for Sean at this stage of his career than the financial side. But there is no doubting that Huddersfield Town are able to offer players significantly more than we can. And just as a little side note to that, we spent a lot of time talking about budget, and I think it's become more relevant in the last 12 months because of the huge increase in wages in League One compared to the kind of landscape we've been operating in prior to that. I think it's become a talking point because it needs talking about. But yeah, I just think it's interesting that every single player in our team, don't get me wrong, they're all well-paid young men, so don't feel sorry for them, but every single one of them could have been paid more elsewhere, yet they still chose to sign for Lincoln when they signed for us. I think that gives you something. I think that, I don't know, you can't measure it, but I think there's something in that in terms of character. But there's no denying that Huddersfield Town don't have to convince players to sign for them for less money. They can do both. They have the look, what we're building will be a championship club in 12 months' time. Come and join the party. And hey, do you fancy a massive pay rise as well? Like, you can't really say no to that, can you? If you're a professional footballer looking to move up in the game.
No, now lots of people are messaging me, and then some people are in the chat saying, how much did we get? Does it include a sell-on clause? The honest shout is I have no idea at all what that package looks like. That will become more apparent, I think, through whispers over the course of the next few days and weeks. They're undisclosed normally for a reason, but you do get a grasp or a handle on that. I'm not sure if we can include. I'm not sure if it'll include a sell-on clause. I'm not sure exactly how it works, how we renegotiate, but it is a transfer. I would imagine that is a possibility. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. I mean, off the top of your head, what sort of figure would you put on it, or were you in the same position as me and don't want to?
I kind of want. I don't know if the club will thank me for this, but I would quite like to speculate a little bit here, because if the compensation fee, i.e. transfer fee, was not agreed with Huddersfield, it would then go to a tribunal, and then a third party decides how much Huddersfield owe us, and it would be a lump sum. So it wouldn't surprise me that it was in our best interests to agree a deal with Huddersfield. It was in Huddersfield's best interests as well to know at the outset how much they were going to pay us. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if we've accepted a slightly lower fee than what we expected a tribunal fee would be, with the inclusion of a sell-on clause. Because I think, one thing Liam mentioned towards the end of last season is we've got a list of sell-on clauses as long as our arm, so that when players that we've sold on or have moved on have another transfer, we get kind of secondary income from that. So it wouldn't surprise me if we've accepted. I still imagine it to be a significant 6-figure fee. I don't know how far up that 6-figure kind of spectrum it will be, but I still expect it to be 6 figures. But I'm wondering if it will be maybe slightly lower than maybe what some people are expecting. But maybe we've kind of demanded that a sell-on fee is included in that, in case he then moves on again, which he does have the potential to do, doesn't he? I don't know. I'm only speculating. But my understanding is that if you've come to an agreement outside of the tribunal, that is very much part of the negotiations, and it's very much allowed. At least that's my understanding.
My guess, if I had to guess, and again, nobody will probably thank me for this, I would think we're looking more Teo Eden than we are anything higher. I think that would be around the ballpark. I don't know. But interesting wording from the Imps official press release was a transfer fee and financial package for Rowan has been agreed as City retained domestic compensation fee rise. So that suggests to me money up front, but financial package does suggest in some way potential add-ons or something along those lines. But we'll always be guessing, and as we won't know until the financial results come out, and even then, it's not split down into player by player. So the fact is, he's moved to Huddersfield. The fact is, we would have got a six-figure sum for him, and it's likely that we will retain an interest. Beyond that, I don't know. I was speculating because we talk about the academy being. When I say bone of contention, there are some people that are just not convinced that the academy has value. And I think this does prove it. But I was struggling to find very many players who had come out of the academy, played 100, 150 games, and then moved on for a financially favourable package. Kate Jackson put on Twitter, Paul Mayo, which is a really good shout, which I've kind of omitted. There's Lee Frecklington. Jack Hobbs came out of the academy, but only really played kind of
about 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, at the end of a Bristol Rovers game. Darren Huckabee only played 12 or 13 games. So, outside of a Paul Mayo and a Lee Frecklington, Gary Strodder, that might be going back a little bit. I think Gary Strodder came out of our academy and ended up moving to West Ham, I think, in about 1987. So if you've got any others, put them in the chat.
Great shout.
And we can have a look. Right, shall we move on?
Just quickly on academy, I just want to add that it's so different now than it was back then, though. Like the academy structure has had investment, and I like to deal in facts more often than not. And it's a fact that the academy has shown value. There was not a single Category 3 academy in the whole Football League this season that had more players playing, so had more first team minutes from academy products than ours. Can't argue with facts, guys. Like that's the truth. So that certainly shows value, doesn't it? That you can't deny that. It shows literally more value than any other academy at our level in terms of the Category 3 status. Well, it's working, isn't it? Simple as that.
Also, just somebody there in the comments, it was Paul Stalabras is shouting, Matt Carbon only played 69 times before he moved to Derby County, but that was a £385 deal, so it's a decent shout. And I think I pulled him out earlier on the chat as well, because it was Ben Dixon at the same time. I think moved to Blackpool for a slightly smaller amount. Moving on, we will not be due financial compensation for the next person we are talking about. It is Paudie O'Connor. Now, I've had a little bit of a rough week when it comes to Paudie and Sean, because as prominent podcasters, whenever a player moves from one club to another, the club that they are moving to inevitably contacts prominent podcasters to talk about the players. And when you don't want to lose a player, the last thing you want to do is then go on another podcast and talk to them about how good they are. So the Huddersfield guy messaged me earlier saying, can you talk about Sean Roughan? And I was really, really tempted literally to just answer every question with a profanity, but I did not. But I've also been already contacted by a Derby County podcast wanting the lowdown on Paudie if he moves. So I just put, yes, if he moves, I'll get somebody to do that. Paudie was heavily linked with Huddersfield. The Huddersfield guy I was speaking to said, I think we've now lost out to Barnsley. And then a Barnsley guy I was speaking to said, I think we may have lost out to somebody else. And the news breaks this morning that he could be talking to Derby County. It's in their local press. I would think that suggests he may well be talking to Derby County, certainly a John Eustace style of player. Of the two, if I was expecting either to move into the Championship, it probably would have been Sean Roughan. That's not being disparaging on Paudie O'Connor's ability. He's a good defender. I think he would fit well into a Eustace side. But yeah, so the next point of conversation, Mr. Lamming, of which I know you've got some maths, is Paudie O'Connor potentially Derby County. It's pretty interesting.
It is interesting. The maths probably relates to both of our potential outgoings, really. So we'll maybe talk about Paudie specifically, then touch on just I suppose the transfer. Not really market, is it, mate? I suppose it is the market. The Championship transfer market in a bit more depth. Firstly, Honestly, I'm with you. I expected of the two, Sean to be the one more likely to go to a championship club than Paudie. But again, we can't really begrudge Sean. It's still a step up. But I think of all of the clubs in the championship, Derby does make quite a lot of logical sense at the moment. This is only a rumour, of course, for Paudie, but it seems like a relatively strong one. I don't think any of us would begrudge whatever move Paudie makes if it's to a bigger club than ours, even if it was a Huddersfield or be it Barnsley, bit of a basket case as well, but a Barnsley has been linked to Bolton, that sort of size club. They are all bigger the clubs than us. But Derby will be a huge step up for him and one he certainly deserves, by the way. But yeah, it kind of makes sense. In all honesty, there probably aren't many championship clubs in my mind that I feel that Paudie stylistically fits, but it does Derby. So yeah, it kind of makes sense, really. And of course, he's not going to cost Derby County a fee at all. So they would certainly be able to offer him significantly more in regards to a financial package than we could. And you would imagine that the majority of League One clubs could as well.
Yeah, very good. I mean, to be honest, we've got this as a discussion point, but there really isn't, in my opinion, a huge amount to discuss. I wasn't ever banking on Paudie signing for us again because it's almost inevitable, being free, that somebody was going to take a punt. And there are a couple of other championship teams, stylistically, as you say, that I think he would quite have suited. Stoke, I think he would have suited. Particularly. Interestingly enough, one of the guys on our running club revealed himself as a Derby fan earlier. Was kind of asking, well, where does he play? Where does he fit? Is he championship quality? I think if you're playing Paudie in a flat back four, I'm not so sure that. I'm not sure he's championship quality in that position because I just think when you play him in the middle of a three, he's got two others to do quite a bit of the running. Not to say that he can't run. I just think he is more a central defender in a three than he is a pairing in a two. I don't know what you think about that, but that was kind of what I said. I think if you play a three, I think he suits it.
It's certainly, we know for a fact he suits the middle one of the three. You could argue that he's more exposed at times in the back three if the wing backs are playing really high than in the back four. I think it's more about style than formation. I think if he plays, it's a little bit like Harry Maguire at Man United, isn't it? When Man United played low block football or England as well played low block football and defend the box, Harry Maguire looks like a pretty good defender. As soon as you try and play higher, he gets found out and looks like he's below the level. Maybe that's a terrible comparison, but stylistically they're similar footballers.
Yeah, I get it.
So if you're a team that expects to be playing without the ball quite a bit and maybe to be not in a low block all the time, but certainly defending your box, then he's going to be great at that. Obviously, if you're going to play a back four and you're going to have two fullbacks kind of either inverting or bumming on all the time, and it's going to be him and his defensive partner exposed, expected to kind of play out. He's decent on the ball, by the way, but it's not his best attribute at all, is it? Then maybe there's a question mark over his ability at championship level there. But as an out and out defender, I don't think there's any doubt that he's as good as other championship defenders at the for want of a better word, the defending. So traditional defending, head it away, kick it away, block stuff. He's absolutely outstanding at that. So yeah, I think at the right club, the right team, he could slot in quite nicely in the championship, to be honest. But certainly expect it to be more of a bottom half championship club than one that's expecting to be battling for Premier League promotion.
Can you see the move going ahead?
Yeah, I can. I can see a move going ahead, whether it's Derby or it's a Huddersfield or it's a Bolton or it's someone along those lines. I can certainly see a move. I think I'd be more comfortable with it being Derby because we've justified the Sean Roughan move, and we would have justified it for Paudie if he goes to another League One club for lots of reasons that we're going to touch on in a moment. But it is nice to see the player moving up to the Championship rather than us playing against them this season. It does feel like a real, not only a move up in terms of stature and club size, it is a move up in level then. And yeah, it then you just look back on with pride then, rather than the slight bitter taste that there sometimes could be if it feels like a more of a sideways move. I don't feel like it would be a sideways move to a bigger League One club, but it's more of a sideways move than it is going to play for Derby, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think it's really interesting if we actually look back over moves where players have left Lincoln with the intent or belief that they were going to move upwards, and you look at the likes of George Grant, who I think Peterborough had been promoted when he moved on, and you look at the likes of Teo Eden, and you look at the likes of Anthony Scully, all moved into the Championship with varying, and Harry Toffolo with varying levels of ability. But then you look at Regan Pools and the Lass Sorensens, who really did move to bigger clubs within our division looking for better things. Worked out for some, didn't work out particularly for others. Lass is one that it didn't really work out for last season. I suspect will be very much on the fringes of Huddersfield this season, given what I think they're going to play, and the players that they're signing. So I just think it's really interesting. Obviously, I wish both of them all of the best. I don't think either of them have ever truly let Lincoln City down. You can point to individual errors or red cards or whatever, but you've got two players here who have served as diligently over a collective period of 8 years or something like that. Sean Roughan since 2020, so Sean Roughan 5 years, Paudie O'Connor 3 years in the first team. Again, unfortunately, life's life, isn't it? People move on.
It is. Yeah, it is. I suppose the question I've got to pose to you, which is we'll link into the work I've put in behind the scenes here, but also it does reference a few comments I've seen in that deep down, were you a bit disappointed that Sean didn't get a move to the Championship though?
Oh, completely and utterly. Yeah, absolutely. It was like if you're in a year 10 and you're going out with a pretty girl in year 10 and she breaks up with you because she might be going out with someone in year 11 and then suddenly she rocks up with one of your classmates, even if he does dress better or, he's got a bigger house or a bit of money, it still stings, doesn't it? But at least if she goes to an older kid, you're kind of going, oh, well, that's a step up, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like he can get served in the local or whatever. So, yeah, that's how I felt about that. Yeah.
Good. I think that's very honest because I felt the same. Like I logically justified. It makes total logical sense, and you can make yourself feel okay about it, as I think we have done. And I haven't been disingenuous with that. Like my feelings are what I said. But yeah, deep down, you think, I wish you got a move to the Championship. It does feel better, and that's our aim, isn't it? Or it certainly was in regard to not just Sean, but just moving players on for fees. I think the original thought is, that they join because they see us. The whole selling point of the club for a lot of the players is you sign them when they're young, before they're pre-peak, and they develop with you. And if they develop faster than you sell them on for a profit. That's good for the club, but you're selling them on to a club that is at a higher level. That's that, and then it's good for the player. They get to progress their careers in that regard. That's quote unquote the model. It's not unique to us, by the way. I know we have a little bit of a joke around that phrase. But it's just a strategy that this club has to have. It's not unique to this football club. It's consistent across most sensible football clubs that want to run in a relatively sustainable way. I think what's really interesting now, or at least my gut instinct was when I was thinking about this, was we're seeing more and more of our players not get the move to the Championship, but getting moves to League One or like rival League One clubs, albeit bigger ones. And that feels different. It's still the club making profit. It's still the players maybe taking a small step up in stature, certainly a big step up in terms of finances. But it is different. It certainly feels like a different landscape. And that just got me thinking. And just like my gut instinct was that it just feels that in particularly the last season, but maybe the last couple, Championship clubs just aren't shopping in League One like they used to. I would say you used to see almost all high-performing League One players in the summer window would get a move to a Championship club. It was I think it was a pretty fruitful market for a lot of Championship clubs. So I did some maths. I totted up every single transfer that was a fee-paying transfer in the Championship last season. And there were 140 of them in total. Now, of those 140, how many do you think were from League One? I know you know.
Well, as you've already told me.
What would your gut instinct be then? What would your gut instinct be?
My gut instinct would have been around 20%.
Okay, around 20% of them. It was just 10 individual players. So that was 7%. That's all. At 140 transfers that were fee paying, only 10 players moved from League One to the Championship. Charlie Hughes, Theo Asgard, Melanik Ali, Femi Aziz, Lucas Jensen, Peter Kioso, Dan Grimshaw, Harrison Burrows, Victor Johansson, and Callum Stiles, who was already playing in the Championship the year before on loan anyway. So it's kind of 9 really. Such a small amount. 16 from the Premier League, 20 just from Championship club to other Championship club, a couple from League Two, and a staggering, and this is the big difference here, 86 from overseas. So 61% of all Championship permanent incomings that paid fees, those fees were paid to foreign clubs, foreign talent. So there's two things going on here. Obviously, from a club's perspective, it's about where you find the value, and they're clearly getting really good value for good quality players in top division, often top division leagues in particularly Scandinavia seems to be quite a happy hunting ground at the moment. But it also means that money is no longer in the football ecosystem in this country. So it means the clubs don't have the money to spend in League One unless they have the sugar daddy type owner. I don't know if you're meant to say that word anymore, but in that kind of benefactor style owner. And it just staggered me. My gut instinct is that was the trend. I was absolutely blown away that it was to that degree. For this to be, 8.5 times as many players being signed in the Championship from foreign clubs than simply from League One.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a test for the next time you and I are on air. Because you listed the League One clubs. I'd be really interested to know what percentage of League One players go on to be regulars in the Championship. So how many games they play roughly on average per player, compared to how many games the players that come in from overseas play. And I know there's a lot of number crunching there, but I know that you're the man to do it.
Well, I'm not really, because the person to do it would be someone that knows how to create some sort of algorithm or some sort of computer system to do it for me, because I just did that by hand and counted them all. I'm sure there's a better way of doing it.
Old school.
Yeah, old school, but also time consuming. So hey, but I was blown away with that. My gut instinct is it was that direction, but for it to be just 10 from League One and 86 separate individuals from foreign clubs out of 140 transfers, it absolutely blew me away. So that goes to show if Championship clubs aren't signing players from League One, you're going to have to sell them to the guys with the money in League One, and maybe you could quote them as being your rivals. So, but we got no chance. You got no choice. We can't turn that money down.
Very good. Right, we shall move on. But what we will do first of all is take a commercial break if you are listening at home. And if you're watching, I may not go through all of the comments because there's been loads of chats, but we shall see. We will be back shortly. Brilliant. I may not go through. A couple of people pointed out youth players who made appearances. Shane Nicholson, really good one. I think 133 appearances according to Wikipedia, so it might be closing in on 150. Interesting as well, Paul Mayo jumping out there, a left back as well. Maybe we have a thing about fullbacks.
Yeah, good point. In regards to the academy, so I sort of couldn't see who asked the question, but someone asked, my stat around the Cat 3 academy sounds good, but how many Cat 3 academies are there? There's 40, so including things like MK Dons, Portsmouth, Leyton Orient, Exeter, Walsall, Preston,
Colchester,
Bolton. Yeah, there's 40 altogether. Most of them are League 2, League 1, and there are some Championship clubs as well. A Cat 3. So yeah, it's pretty. It is. Yeah, it wasn't just a number that makes it sound better than it is. It's genuinely impressive that we've had the most minutes for academy graduates from Cat 3 academies in the first team this season.
Cool. Right, we're going to come back in because it's getting late. Hello and welcome back to the Stacey West podcast. Before the break, we were talking about outgoings, two of them in particular, Sean Roughan and Paudie O'Connor. We are now going to talk technically about potential incomings, and Chris will be absolutely delighted to hear that this week the Grimsby Telegraph reported that we are reportedly, maybe one of the people that were in for Denver Hume. He's got a smug look on his face there already. So obviously when we did our kind of throw shit at a wall and see what sticks scouting approach, which is what we occasionally do, Denver Hume's name came up. And yeah, now we're being linked with him. So a left back, been at Sunderland, came through the Sunderland Academy of Light. By the way, really good academy that produces a lot of really good footballers. Went to Portsmouth. They expected big things from Portsmouth. It didn't really materialise. He ended up at Grimsby. Looked like he was on the old downward spiral. If you end up at Grimsby, normally you are on a downward spiral, certainly in life, not just in football. Although I'm edging a bit closer to Grimsby than Lincoln out at Louth, so maybe I should shut my mouth, which a lot of people think I should do anyway. But he's really smashed it at Grimsby. Actually, David Artell, pains me to say this, has got Grimsby in fairly good shape, and they've got a lot of really underrated footballers, and their recruitment has been really good, which will segue nicely into my next point. But we're going to talk about Denver Hume first. Somebody that was involved heavily in his recruitment was Joe Hutchinson, from what I understand. But Denver Hume, Chris, you're obviously going to be delighted that we are being linked, but we must stress it is only linked at this stage.
Yes, obviously, I'm quite pleased. I do take a little bit of offence to you saying throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. I put a lot of time and effort into my picks. Thank you very much. But yeah, like obviously, when we're looking through trying to find it was a speculative article or podcast in where we thought, what are the sort of players that we maybe would be after a realistic option for us in the areas that we need one, without any understanding at all as to whether we'd actually be in for that player or not. So, of course, it always feels quite nice when we don't know how official this is, but it seems reasonably realistic. He plays down the road at Grimsby, got League One experience, clearly too good for League Two, out of contract, in a position where we've just lost a player in Sean. We need a left back. It makes total sense. But we're not going to be the only club in for him. Now that's blatantly obvious. And almost certainly other clubs can offer him more than we can financially. So, we have to do what we can, but we have to convince him in other ways, which, let's not forget, we have done with pretty much every single player that currently plays in our squad. So we're pretty good at that. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense in that regard. For anyone that missed the podcast in which we did speculate around these, just to touch a little bit on him, very much an attacking fullback, has played wing back and fullback, but he's not really like a converted winger that played at wing back at times, like maybe Rico potentially could be seen as that. He is very much a left back or a left wing back, and has rarely played as a kind of further forward in his career, but is certainly a more attacking fullback than a defensive one. He's not weak defensively, like statistically is perfectly solid. Actually is in the top 10% for number of duels won in League Two in his position last season. So he's decent in that regard. But his kind of standout quality are top 15% successful dribbles in his position in League Two. Actually top 10% touches in the box for left back as well. Passing accuracy is really good, but the standout here, he's got 12 assists in League Two, and also the top 8% of successful passes for left backs. So he is incredibly dangerous with his delivery. So solid defender, but a real threat going forward with wide delivery, both in open play and set pieces as well, I believe. So just ticks a lot of boxes, really. We put a lot of value on set plays. It is one way that we can overperform our squad budget, I think, is by being good at those sort of things. So makes total sense. I would be delighted if we could sign Denver Hume. I doubt we're going to be the only team in for him, but I would be delighted, not just because it means that I got a pick right, though that would, of course, make it nice on a personal note, but it just makes a lot of logical sense. It fits, and it's a position where we literally don't have another option other than Zach Bradshaw at the moment. And of course, Zach's not played a single minute of football for our first team. So yeah, we do need a left back. If we can get something like that sorted early doors in the window, we can put an 11-a-side team out on the first game of the season without another signing and be competitive. So yeah, I'm really hopeful of this one, to be honest.
Now, devil's advocate, we haven't had an awful lot of luck plucking players from League Two in recent years. Now, Paudie is an outlier, one might say. Cohen Bramall moved on better than us, but probably not massive impact when he came to us. Ali Smith jumps to mind. Theo Archibald, Charles Vernon springs to mind. It's all about making the step up. What I would say about Denver Hume is he has already played at this level. Probably didn't really do it at Portsmouth, but actually had a decent run at Sunderland in a pretty horrible Sunderland side. Sunderland were a team that should have come in and gone straight back up again, like a power ball. Do you remember these old power balls? You used to throw them out your bedroom window, and they used to bounce really high when you threw them. Sunderland should have done that. So yeah, Denver Hume, I think there's always a risk when you fish a player out of League Two, as kind of playing into what you were saying earlier. Championship clubs probably fine when you fish a player out of League One, if I'm honest. But I'm with you. The sooner we sign a left back, the better. I'm not one that's going to be itching for us to make signings. What will be, will be. Jez kind of said off the record the other night that we're talking to players. It's obvious we're talking to players. We're talking to left backs. We know we need a left back. I'm not in any panic when it comes to July the 30th, whenever it is. We will have signed a left back. The question is, will we have signed our first choice, second choice, third choice? You'll never know. Like back in the 21 summer, isn't it, when we signed Hakeem Delican? Turns out he wasn't our first choice at the time, but you never quite know. I think Denver Hume will be very, very high up on a list of potential players that we wanted. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes.
Yeah, indeed. I'm with you on almost everything you said there, other than at left back. I would quite like us to get one over the line soon-ish. Obviously not now. It just doesn't need to be done now, but certainly so they're in when pre-season starts. That would be ideal. For any other player that adds to what we've already got, we can probably wait, and maybe it'll probably be a slower transfer window for us this season. And also, I don't expect us to actually have that many incomings. I don't see it being a hugely busy window for us. But I would like us to get a left back in early doors if we're able to. And then we've got, like I said, we've got not only a full 11 that if we put a team out to play tomorrow, they could play, but also they're going to be able to have a full pre-season to gel and to get used to the system. Yes, I would like a left back soon. Denver Hume would be perfect, Jez. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
The season kicked off tomorrow. Could Dom Jeffries play there?
He could, but he's not a left back. He's done a decent job at left wing back, but absolutely not in a flat back four when we haven't got a left or unlikely to have a left-footed player ahead of him. I know Rico could play there, but not for me. And that's not because Dom is going to be a poor player in that position. It's just that's obviously not going to be his long-term role. Wherever he plays, for whichever club he plays for in his future, he's not going to be a left back in a four for anybody. So it would be square peg round hole. So could he? Yes, but it doesn't fit as a long term for me.
Could he? Should he? Would he? There we go. That was the questions that were being asked around. Mark Tracy, after Peter O'Rourke rather rudely dumped it on Lincoln fans that our chief scout was on his way to Luton. Those rumours were founded. Mark Tracy is from Luton Town fan, and has moved there for this season. In his place, we have pulled somebody with a phenomenal surname, who we are obviously very familiar with in Joe Hutchinson. That took a while to land with Chris. So Joe has been with the club before. He left to take up a role at Grimsby. I had heard the older rumour of an argument with Mark Kennedy, but let's face it, water's wet, night is dark. People fell out with Mark Kennedy, as I understand, which I know will get all of Twitter bubbling because it's done it a little bit earlier on today as well. Whether that's why he left or not, I don't know. He's gone to Grimsby. Has Grimsby's recruitment been better since he's been there? I read through a thread on The Fishy, which is what the main Grimsby Town website is, and there was some debate, as you would expect from any forum, but generally it seems that he was being credited with an upturn in the recruitment. He's coming back here as something like head of talent ID, which is one of those titles that gets football purists' blood boiling, even though they don't actually understand exactly what it is. So he's back as head of talent ID. He had a really good background. You and I think, spoke about him on a podcast way back when. I think he'd worked in the England setup. We also, I think, theorised that he would have been a pretty tough loss when he went. Didn't discuss it in huge detail, if I recall at the time, but it was certainly mentioned. In terms of replacements, it doesn't feel like a like-for-like replacement because Mark Tracy was chief scout and used to go all over the place, but it's another body into the recruitment team. And for me, anyone else whose name I didn't recognise, you would have gone, well, I'm sure that's going to be really good. But actually, Joe Hutchinson coming back in fills me with kind of more positive vibes than if it was just a nameless, faceless individual, mainly because it's like if you sign an old player, you know exactly what you can do, and you can put him straight back in the team.
Yeah, exactly. He knows the club, and the club know him, which is always a good sign. I think it's interesting that Jez mentioned that Mark Tracy is is irreplaceable. The work he did was unrivaled, really. So maybe Joe Hutchinson coming in with a different job title, maybe just more for him. Maybe I'm sure there are other roles and responsibilities as well, but maybe that just helps really separate the two. It's not a direct replacement, but he's obviously coming into what appears to be head up our recruitment team in some way, shape, or form, or certainly the identification of the players. So effectively, he's coming in to be a very a smart scout is effectively what he's doing, isn't it? I think Grimsby Town's recruitment has been good generally. They've their league position and has certainly shown that in the last season. And ultimately, he was partly responsible for identifying Denver Hume. We've shown how well that worked out. Another interesting player they signed in January was Geza David Torrey from the Faroe Islands. I just think that's pretty cool. If you're scouting obscure leagues to try and find value in places that other people aren't, then that's a good sign. So, and he's played a little bit as well. They don't all work out like that from those sort of leagues, but I just think it's interesting that a club like Grimsby were able to scout and to identify and to recruit from play areas outside of England. And I think that's interesting in regard to the trends in the Championship, the reliance on the foreign market when that's where value appears to be. Maybe that's something that we're looking to explore a little bit. Just interesting as well that, I suppose there could be a bit of concern that, we've lost Mark Tracy right at the start of a transfer window. Yes, we've replaced him, but how much does that impact this transfer window? So it was quite nice to have the clarification in the statement that all of our work is kind of done, really, in terms of identifying players. We've already got our targets for this summer window. This window isn't impacted really by Mark Tracy leaving and Joe Hutchinson coming in. It impacts the future, of course, hopefully positively. But this window is unaffected in regard to the players that we're going to be going after. So that was quite comforting just to have that kind of confirmed, really.
Really interesting as well that you mentioned there about the Championship and people having to fish in foreign markets. Sheffield United actually today have embraced an AI transfer model by signing a little-known star from Bulgaria by using AI called Ahiji Ukaki from Botev Plovdiv, which I think is really interesting. He's actually the third player who's arrived at Bramall Lane thanks to AI, and they do sound like AI-generated names: Christian Noachukwu and Jefferson Kakeres. So
interesting stuff. I know the club have changed their scouting platform. They're kind of, I don't know if it's, I know they use AI for set pieces. I don't know if there's AI involved with this, but I know it's a very, very personalized and unique data provider. I won't give anything away in case anyone from other clubs are listening, but I'm sure they're not.
I doubt that. Yeah.
No, I doubt that, but you never know. I don't know too much about it, but having looked at the website and nothing else, it certainly looks quite in depth and quite interesting. So yeah, don't get me wrong, we're not going to be able to invest in the same way into that sort of technology as Sheffield United are, but we can certainly, we certainly show that there's value in investment in those sort of services. You only have to show the money, the relatively small fee that was invested in the AI for set pieces last season for us to be the team in the whole of the Football League that scored the most from set plays. So yeah, there's something in it. There's clearly something in it, isn't there? So fair play.
Moving on, because you don't actually realise this is on the agenda, but I think this is an absolutely vital question. Something that went out on the club's website a little bit earlier today, and it's the final talking point of the podcast for now. I was going to mention the Tom Shaw Notts County thing. I don't actually think that's worth paying attention to. I will to mention, I suppose, didn't we?
Yeah, it's worth mentioning.
A news story broke earlier today that Notts County may be interested in Tom Shaw. It hasn't really been picked up widely. I don't see that it's got many legs. He wasn't on the betting markets at all prior to the story coming out, because I wrote, I do write kind of betting centric articles for a provider. He wasn't in the top 10 or top 20 when I did my next Notts County manager odds, and then this news story broke and he was quickly installed as the fourth favourite, so I had to alter my argument. I do feel sometimes these articles tend to come out with the betting market in mind when it comes to managers. That's not to undervalue what Tom Shaw does at all. I think that there is an intent that he is our next head coach. Certainly when you talk to people around the club, Tom's dedication and his application around the place is highly, highly valued. So it just depends, I suppose, if he was getting itchy feet or not. But I don't see any legs in it myself.
I would be surprised if it happens, but Tom Shaw is an incredible coach, and as mentioned on our podcast last week, it's within the industry. Lincoln City is a real genuine shining light and a beacon in regards to just being incredibly well run with high performing individuals. Like, it's known within the industry. As fans, we don't always feel it because it's almost like looking in a mirror, isn't it? You always see the worst of yourself sometimes when you look in the mirror, don't you? Whereas when others looking outside, hopefully they maybe see the best of you sometimes. And maybe in regards to not just Tom Shaw, but all of our staff, it only goes to show Mark Tracy getting his move to Luton and being poached there just goes to show that people are sought after. And the interesting thing, I think, is if you have got the betting markets in mind, or you're just plucking names out of a hat that might be linked, it's quite a random one, isn't it? Like Lincoln City's assistant manager is a bit of a strange one to pick out of a hat just to throw on a website for betting.
Depends if the writer's a Lincoln City fan.
Fair enough. Yeah, good point. I think I'd be surprised just because, I think Notts County are very ambitious, and it would be probably a high risk appointment. Tom Shaw has clearly shown to be a very good coach, but it would be his first full-time managerial role at a club that's probably got expectations of promotion this season in League Two. So it'd be a tough one. If he does go, I wish him all the best. He's certainly earned it. But I'm with you. I feel that he's been here a long time. What's holding him back from waiting until Michael Skubala gets picked up by a Championship club, and then Tom is ready-made to fill in as our next head coach here?
If he hangs on 12 months, he'll be assistant head coach of a Championship club himself. So, the link that would have made more sense, of course, would have been Chris Cohen. But there we go. Anyway, back to my original exciting thing to finish the podcast on, and we don't have to get to the whole 1 hour, but somehow we always manage it. It's the news earlier from 11 hours ago that the club are looking for new food vendors for the fan zone. Now, I know that this would really be more Ben's wheelhouse, because I've very rarely met Ben where tofood hasn't been involved. On the live show, I know we all went for a KFC, which is unfair. And at my house, everybody. No, you didn't. You went to Stack. So you went somewhere where they served alcohol as well as food, which says probably more about you than it does us. And I know we obviously had the do at the house this weekend where food was involved. And actually, Steve Barton managed to throw it all over my rattan furniture and podcast co-host Emily. So well done for that. But yeah, food in the fan zone. Ben always enjoys his dinner in the fan zone. I rarely eat. But Chris, putting you on the spot now, if there was one kind of food outlet or type of food or something that you could have in the fan zone that is currently not there, what would you have?
Put me on the spot here.
Now, I'll answer.
Have you got an answer?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have. I'm a big burger fan. But I don't like the burgers where they just have the big thing. They're all in the fat, and then they just chuck them in a dry bun with a stale. And so I'm sure the burger places are good, but I can't have a burger. I like a gourmet burger. I'm not sure how I'd eat it, but I do have an issue with burgers that are too big to eat. I said it the other day. Like, you go and order a burger, I expect to be able to do this. Imagine my Post-it notes are a burger, and people listening, you won't like this, but hold it in my hand, take a bite. Gourmet burgers, you can't. You're having to eat them with a knife and a fork, and it's an absolute ball ache. I despise it. So gourmet burgers is actually out of the question. I do like a good Indian. We've obviously already got that. I think it would be really bad of me, but I do like a chicken. I think if there was something that did like not KFC style, but like a good southern fried chicken. I'm not talking about Nando's, because Nando's is just basically chicken for wankers. I mean, like, proper. It is, though, isn't it? Like, I'm going for cheeky Nando's. It's not cheeky. Why is going for a Nando's cheekier than going for fish and chips or a Chinese? It's not. And people just go on and on and on about Nando's. It's chicken. KFC have been doing it for years. They're not breaking any new ground. The Colonel hasn't sprinkled his 11 special herbs and spices on it, has he? It's just chicken. And when I went, actually, just a word on Nando's. When I went to Nando's last, it was about 10 years ago, nobody came to serve me at the table. I had to go to the counter and place my order. I have to do that in KFC. If I go down and sit down in a restaurant, unless it's like a crappy chain pub where you get your number and you have to go up and go, oh, can I please have this and a pint? If I go to a place that's actually a restaurant like Nando's, I want somebody to come to me and take my order. So stuffed Nando's. So I'm hoping, so chicken of some description, not like a KFC, something a little bit more bespoke. I'll tell you what, actually, years ago, I don't know, anyone listening on here will already have lost interest by now. But there used to be a burger wagon in Jackson's car park that did southern fried chicken or spicy chicken from Padley's in Sleaford. So I want that. I want the spicy chicken burgers from Padley's in Sleaford that the Greasy Spoon in Jacko's car park did 20 years ago. That'd be my choice. Chris, over to you.
I've got so much to add. On Nando's, like you said, you haven't been for 10 years, and that shows because I haven't heard anyone call it a cheeky Nando's for about 10 years. But I don't dislike Nando's. It's fine. It's fine. I wouldn't want it in the fan zone because I quite like the more local and the more unique stuff. But I do have an interesting story about Nando's that backs up your point of it being shit, which is the very first time I took my good lady to Rock City in Nottingham to a gig. We went to a Nando's beforehand, and it was relatively early in the relationship. And I think Steph was trying to impress me because I was still a personal trainer at the time, and that has its certain stereotypes, which everyone that gets to know me realise that they're false. But at the time, maybe there was an element of that. So Steph ordered a quarter chicken with a side or something, which is tiny in itself. But what she was served was, it must have been no more than an eighth of a chicken. It was like the saddest plate of food. I just, how can you put that on a plate and think that's reasonable to serve as an actual meal? So yeah, I'm not a massive fan in that regard, but it's all right. But I'm thinking like Korean barbecue, like some sort of Korean barbecue street food. That would be wonderful. I love like that street food type stuff. I quite like all the things that stack, that style of street food type food. So that sort of thing in the fan zone would be wonderful.
So we've had so many responses to this, more so than ever. And dare I just say, if Nando's get their quarters and their eighths mixed up, that would have been a serious problem on the estate that I grew up on, by the way. Which is, yeah, I say an estate is one road in Rugby. You know, it really doesn't count. So Nigel Biggs says Thai food. Andy Brown says Caribbean food. JR Special, who is a great fan of the podcast, and we do love him. Go vegan in the fan zone. Meat is murder. But James Lee's answer's got to be the best. Ham rolls and cheese and onion rolls like the good old days. Call them Doreen specials. In
that's a great idea.
That is a fantastic point to end the podcast on. So we only had 4 talking points. Only one of them is actually real news, which is Sean Roughan. The rest is all speculation. And at this time of the year, everybody loves speculation. We've been speculating on what food people might get. And anybody who's speculating on what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go through, put the kettle on, probably have to do the washing up and upload this on the podcast. I speculate that Chris is probably going to go for another run because he loves it so much. And I speculate that all of you will be back same time-ish next week for another episode of the Stacey West podcast. Up the imps.
Up the imps.